Okay. So,
So,
yeah, you gave me a good introduction in your email, but it would be nice if you could just, well, just explain more clearly about where you feel you are in terms of realization.
so it was actually 4 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm a TV host here in Germany,
Yes.
and I'm just telling you just a 2 minute story,
Yeah,
3 minute
that's
story,
great.
but that's
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
As much time as
good.
you'd like to. We've
Yeah,
got
when I grew Oh, that's nice of you, David. I'm so blessed talking to you. I can't even imagine that. That's unbelievable right now. So when I grew up, at the age of 12, I had problems with my family, my physical family, my biological mom and dad, and my two brothers,
Mhm.
because I'm I'm now aware that I always acted of my true nature, also with 12. So I was born in Munich and we moved to the suburbs. And I
Mhm.
told my biological mom back then that I wanted, with 12, I can remember that, 12, 13, that I will go back to Munich, and I will live there. And she couldn't relate to this. And I also told her by the age of 13 that I would go and be a TV presenter. I wanted to go to the television. And she always said, "You won't make any money. You will never accomplish this." Um, she wanted me to go to an elderly home and take care of elderly people because she thought that would be a great job. You will never get fired. You will always have work and all this kind of stuff. So this escalated pretty quickly when I was 15, because then I was forced to move out of my elderly home. It was so I had a girlfriend this time, and they didn't like my girlfriend, and they forbidden my girlfriend.
Wow.
And when I went away with 15 and just stayed a night at my girlfriend's house to settle everything, the next day my biological dad and my biological mom came and put my stuff in front of the house and just left.
Wow.
So I was forced. Thankfully, the parents of my girlfriend said, "Okay, that's we can't live him on the street, so uh, he can live with us here." That was really great.
Yes.
And a year later, then my biological dad passed away. So we lots of confronting going on there. He someone was drunk and ran him over. So just coincidence, I think, for all that thing. But now when I look back, I actually see why this has happened. So um, I was forced to, with 17, I managed to get a job at a TV station, a local TV station, and was trained there.
Mhm.
So I pressed all the feelings down, 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 and never really lived them. And that I was 17 when that happened, 17, 18.
Mhm.
So I just lived with that feeling on and on and on. And with my biological mom, I had no contact whatsoever. And I think it was 1999. And now I'm making the transition to 2017. So
Mhm.
I haven't spoken 18 years. And the feelings got so bad, so bad. And I was invited to take place in Celebrity Big Brother in Germany.
Yes.
So I went there, and there's something strange happened, because there was a singer in this house, and he looked like my dad. He had something for my dad. And I saw him and a challenge, and I started crying. So I really started crying. And my biggest fears were exposed to whole Germany, because next day, it's the Bild Zeitung. It's like the Sun. Yeah, wrote Robin Bade, the biggest crybaby who ever
Wow.
participated in Celebrity Big Brother. So, um, 8 days later, the viewers have voted me out, and I read this all and everything. And something else then happened. My real me took over, because there were only two choices I could make, because I couldn't live with that. So I said, okay, I don't give a damn about what anyone says.
Great.
I cry sometimes. That's no problem for me.
Sure.
I find anything bad about that. So
No.
then everyone saw me crying. What's the whole deal? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then a friend of mine introduced me to a book called The Mind Flow System. It's from a German. I don't know if you know that. It's from Tom Mögele. It's the guy.
I've
It's
not
called.
heard of that one, Robin. No.
Okay, and I think he also released it now in English. It's a small book, just, and it's a few energy exercises you have to do every morning and in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did those exercises, something happened to me, because I could feel energy.
Yes.
Suddenly, I could experience. I say a part of my true nature. So I was curious, what's that feeling? Where's that energy is coming from? I can't see it.
Sure.
What's that? So through this energy movements, I could release many feelings, bad feelings. I call them. There's no good, no bad, just feeling of energy. I could release that energy, and I could contact my biological mom and talk to her from an adult standpoint. So, but I found out she hadn't changed. Yeah, no, she's the same. That's no problem for me. So I cut the rope again, and but my seeking was actually over. I could say, yeah. Then some, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy, but I stopped seeking until this time. Then something funny happened. The sister of my biological mom got in touch with me, and we had a little bit of contact, and it was very good. And they don't have contact either. So they live in the same village, but they can't stand each other. So and it happened that she wanted to adopt me, and she did. And it was this year.
Amazing.
But yeah, that was really amazing, but we don't have contact anymore.
Wow.
And it happened the same thing. And then I realized it happened the same thing like with my biological mother. She, all of a sudden, when the adoption was through, I didn't have a good feeling about this, but they couldn't have kids. And her biggest wish was to have someone when she gets old.
Yes.
And I fulfilled this wish because it's family, and okay, I said I will do that. But right after the adoption, her behavior towards me changed, and she's a very mind person.
Yes.
And she tried. For me, the world always was a good place. For her, it's a really bad place. Everyone is bad. Everything is wrong. Yeah. She has a lot of fear. And I don't have fear. If I sense fear, I really look towards this fear and try to get it, and to catch it, and see it a little bit playful, like in a playful way. But that was then the point. She couldn't accept that I see the world like I do. So I said, okay, it's better we don't have any contact anymore. And the seeking started again. So then something, I will say, my true nature came back through and said, okay, you were on that journey. You wanted to see your true nature, but you got disturbed, actually. So these people in my life actually just were there, it's not even an opinion, it's just a feeling, to get me back on track, to get me back on the way. So David, I forgot something on 2017. I have to just go back once, because through those energy exercises, I really was in a peaceful, mindful state. I wouldn't call it aware state. I would call it peaceful state. But then I I followed, and that's really interesting. I followed an idea I had. I wanted to slim down. So I stopped eating a lot. So I went from 88 kilos to 72 kilos.
Wow.
And then it got so bad I had to go to the hospital.
Wow.
And in the hospital, a transformation. I remember laying there, and the doctor talked to me. You have to eat. What's wrong with you? 186 tall and 72 kilo. That's not enough. And there, my mind kicked in. I know the exact second. I really know. I said, "See, I've told you. When you go that path, you will." Sorry for my language now.
It's okay.
Fuck up. You know.
Right.
And you are better when you listen to me. So, and I forgot everything I've learned up until this point, and really fell back in this mind state. I forgot that the voice in my head isn't me. I just listened to my voice all the time.
Yeah.
And then when my life started getting worse again, so I can see the transition. I just wanted to add that in.
That's
so
good,
back
yeah.
to now.
Yes.
So just to finish it and wrap it all up, because I have a sense it doesn't matter anymore. But okay, I came back to the seeking, and I just discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza with the formula on Gaia, and that was a really good thing because he did a kind of meditation, and I sat down and I realized I was nervous. I couldn't sit down. I had to practice this a lot until I made it. And he said, put your attention to your heart, and this shifted my mind attention to your heart, and this started a transformation. And then I suddenly got a sense there was David Bingham. I watched all your videos over and over and over already, many times, and I could always relate to that, what you are saying. So then I reached out to you, long story short, and since 1 week now, since I saw the interview with Rika, I was rewatching your podcast interview you did with that nice guy. I listened to it 3 times yesterday and saw all your videos. And every time I have the feeling that really you are standing behind the curtain, I'm standing in front of the curtain, and you, Robin, come behind the curtain, and I'm just have the feeling I just standing there. Okay, David, I want so badly, because that's the problem from the mind, and yeah, that's the state of mind I'm in right now.
That's great. That's really helpful, Robin. That's really good. And it's actually your story is very similar to most people I speak with, is the ones where there's realization, and there's a reason for that, which I'll share with you a bit later. But I feel the main element for you is really just the way that thoughts are being adopted, because we actually remain as the infinite being. You never actually you never became Robin. You just remained as the infinite being. That's all you've ever been. It's just that, as you rightly noticed, the mind is like a radio receiver, and so it works on different levels. There are different aspects to the mind, but the one aspect of it is that it's like a radio receiver, which is receiving a transmission of thoughts which are inviting you to identify with them. So this is the basic problem that all human beings are having, and it's because the thoughts are being delivered as invitations, and they're highly personalized. So most people can't ever consider the possibility that they're not their own thoughts. But when you realize that there are actually two distinct forms of intelligence available to humans, there's what you could call divine intelligence, which is a combination of infinite intelligence and infinite love, and that's available in the body of wisdom, or effortless being, or the causal realm. But then the intelligence available in the mental body is a dualistic form of intelligence, and that is a combination of intelligence and fear generally. And once you realize that, then you can see many of the invitations that are coming in, and there's a process where firstly they're being kind of transmitted into the body mind as invitations. And as you mentioned the term pain body, it's great that you're familiar with that concept, because that's really what's going on. The thoughts are being delivered as invitations, and there's a point at which, for most people, they become instantaneously adopted. So it's mainly through the use of language that we do that. So a thought is coming in, which is designed to disturb you in some way, and if the mind grabs hold of it and then it personalizes it, so it starts using language along the lines of, I'm suffering from mental turbulence, I'm having a difficult time, my relationship with my mum has broken down, those kind of things, then it's the personalization of the language which makes it appear to be real. But actually, what you truly are is impersonal being. That's all you've ever been. And so the dualistic realm it's like a ride, really, as I've mentioned in the video with Rika. So we can step into the dualistic realm and we can have that full-on experience, but it's overlaid on what we truly are, because what you truly are is infinite awareness, infinite beingness, the infinite being. And when we step into the dualistic realm, then it's a level of consent to some degree, because identification is a form of consent and belief is a form of consent. So if we consent to the thoughts as they're being delivered, and then the language we use is personalized, then we've kind of adopted it. But it's in that subtle distinction between the transmission of the thought and the point of adoption that freedom appears. Because when you just see that there's a thought which is coming in, which is highly personalized, and it's coming in as an invitation, if we can change the terminology, so we can say, there is awareness of the thoughts coming in, rather than, oh, I have this thought about my mum. Because the truth is that everything is being known by the infinite being, so everything is registered in your infinite nature. So we'll just do a little exercise, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but just to see, just to make this distinction, really. So are there any thoughts arising in this moment?
No thoughts.
Okay, that's good. So we could just say there's awareness of a quiet mind, or awareness of silence.
There's awareness of silence.
Great. And are there any emotions appearing at the moment?
Yes, emotions of sadness appearing.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, I like the way you use the terminology, because you used impersonal terminology there, by saying that there's awareness of sadness appearing, whereas lots of people would say, oh, I feel very sad, or so...
You taught me that.
Great. Great. So when we use impersonal terminology, we're actually remaining in the neutrality of our true nature, while observing the invitation from it within the emotional body into the frequency of sadness. So that when we personalize it and identify with it, we're actually connecting our energy, which is the energy of the infinite being, into that frequency and activating it and making it seem much worse. Whereas just the simple noticing that there is awareness of that frequency doesn't belong to Robin. It certainly doesn't belong to the infinite being, but it's being projected as an invitation for you to identify with that. But as you've rightly noticed, you don't need to do that. You can just, there's the presence of an energetic frequency, and you can just allow that to be. So that's great. And so you're probably very familiar with the distinction between between the mind and infinite awareness as well. So because you're really clear. But if we could just have a little look at that. So could you, what I'd like you to do is firstly just notice that emotion as it's appearing, because all emotions are registered in effortless being, and then to just engage the mind to describe it.
The mind can only express it in a picture.
Okay.
It's when I have to describe it in a picture, it's like a big black ball.
Great.
That's the only way the mind could describe that.
That's great. Yeah.
Or small, like a tennis ball.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's good. So the there's the direct knowing, which you're totally familiar with. So there is effortless, impersonal, neutral awareness of that emotion. And then there's the option to engage the mind. And again, I really like the way you described it, because you're just describing it impersonally, which is fantastic. So the truth is, Robin, that there is already full self-realization for you, and there actually has been for a long time. It's just that the mental invitations are being delivered to try to divert your attention from the acceptance of that. The ability to free oneself, which you already have actually, from those energetic compromises, is something where your energy, instead of it being compromised and taking you into lower frequencies, what's going to happen is that energy becomes available, and it's going to propel you into much higher levels of realizing your true infinite potential. And so that's the process that's taking place. So it may be, like, you know, as it is for most people, the invitations continue because they're trying to invite you back into the personalized realm. But once you understand that it's an energetic game, then there's a real incentive in not accepting those invitations. And there's the residue of things. So for instance, the way you describe that, you know, the black ball, that really is something which is an invitation. You know, it's an invitation into identification. But that you'll find the ability to not go there will become increasingly easy, because there's actually real incentive in not identifying with those frequencies, because it's like a game of snakes and ladders. You know, if you identify with the lower frequencies, then you're going down the snakes. Whereas if you preserve that energy, you know, witness those invitations, as you're able to do really efficiently. And, you know, the terminology you're using is maintaining the impersonal mode, which is crucial. Then you find that your infinite nature begins to guide you into places that you never even realized were available. And that's really what's going to happen for you. And it happens effortlessly. So it's really, firstly, understanding your reason for being here. And on some level, I'm sure you know that that's actually the case.
You're right about that. You're right about that's why I'm relating when you say the word effortlessly, just this one word,
yes,
it really took me into that place like I've never been before.
fantastic.
When I heard you say that word effortlessly on Sunday or Saturday last week, suddenly I got it. Suddenly I was in a place. Oh, it's effortlessly.
Yes.
He really means that with effortlessly.
Yes.
Don't make an effort to become something you already are, and
Yes.
everything clicked. And
Fantastic.
this moment, I've had it. And when you do the practice, like doing it every 5 minutes since then, what's going on. I can observe the mind. I can.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be quiet. I have a few questions about the mind. If
Yes,
we
certainly.
just have time for that, just
Absolutely, got
yeah.
plenty of
Um,
time, as much time as you
that's
want.
that's so nice, David. Thank you so much. Because it's I have fear in me. I actually uh, thought I got rid of fear. I really, when I sense fear, I go in this direction. I look at it, and I really analyze it. Actually, not with the mind, just with my true nature. The mind
Yes,
is quiet. I've got
yes,
no problem whatsoever to quiet the mind.
yeah,
It's just I experience it,
yes,
the fear, and I go deeper into it to really examine it and to don't feel it anymore. So
yeah,
that's the whole case. Not
yes,
letting it be, just examine it and it's here, but also finding emotionally with my real self the reason why there is fear or resistance, because I feel like you always say the true nature is saying yes and accepting, and
yes,
it's so hard open when you say yes to everything. You can experience the world, you can experience the trees outside, you can experience the objects, and you are
yes,
it's difficult to put it in words like
yes,
you,
yes,
but you know what I mean. So
yeah, absolutely.
but there's really I sense that since I had um this last Saturday, since this effortless, right away this fear came up. Oh, I hope it doesn't end. Oh, I hope I don't fall back in automatic mode,
Yes,
because that means suffering. That means I am separate. That all
yes,
this nonsense going on again,
yes,
and
yes. Well,
that's not what I want for my.
the way it works, Robin, which you know you may have heard me mention before, where there's realization, which there has been for you, the dualistic mind realm is looking through your files. So it's saying, let's just have a look at Robin. He's actually freed himself from this energy harvesting system, and we need to see if we can invite him back in some way. So it looks to see which invitations are going to be most powerful and most effective to try to get you back into mind identification. And that's what it came up with. So it came up with this idea that you may lose it, but actually you can't lose it, because once it's been seen, you can't ever go back to thinking that you're Robin. You know that you remain as this open space of beingness. That's all you've ever been. And there's the body mind of Robin, and there's the personalized realm of experience, which is fully available. And the really nice thing is that everything about Robin, all of the great attributes, will develop in a way where there's just total freedom. And you know what I really like, the example you gave of the way you handled the experience with Big Brother. You know, the ability just to kind of step away and just realize that that is only, you know, you're just playing the character of Robin, really. So it doesn't matter what people think of you. You don't have to maintain any self-image, because the whole idea of creating a mental self-image is going to be a partial version of what Robin's true potential really is. Because if Robin is set free to just be himself in the most natural way, that's the most amazing possibility in terms of just being fully expressive in, you know, in terms of your full potential in the human realm.
And I could experience also a lot of people who wrote me. I've got over 100,000 messages on Facebook from people who say, I don't watch that crap, or but I
Yes,
zapped by, and you did everything right just because you
yeah,
cry a little bit. That's
yeah,
so unfair that something like this
yes,
comes up on TV. So many people could also relate to me. There was the other
absolutely.
side, like in the duality again, yeah.
Yes,
You know, people who like you who don't like you, and
yeah,
that's the whole game we play all
yeah,
day here on Earth.
yeah,
But that was an interesting experience. But I really had this. It wasn't the Robin persona who did that. It was my really true nature who took over, who had to take over,
Yes.
because Robin couldn't handle it anymore.
No.
So
No.
I could only fall back to my true nature,
Yeah.
which takes care of everything.
Yes.
I, I have difficulty, and because I'm so fed up, I'm really fed up with this Robin persona. Um, I experienced the last 5 days a little bit of difficulty holding my state of being.
Right.
When I talk to people, I started catching myself. What kind of what kind of rubbish is Robin talking at the moment? That's not what I want to say. Like this,
Yes.
I I feel I have to get a little bit more separation between the Robin persona and my true natural being. Hard to describe, but
Yeah.
I'm not yet, not control is the wrong word, but
Mm.
acting the whole time from my natural being. At the moment, I would lie to you if I say I would do that 24/7 all day.
Yes.
That's not the case. So do you have a kind of tip
Yes.
for me or something like that you
Absolutely.
can give me?
Yeah. Well, actually, the invitation into making Robin wrong in some way is coming from the mind, and that's that's actually trying to create a sense of duality when there isn't one, because the truth is that you are already the infinite being, and it isn't something you need to practice or keep in focus, because that just continues a sense of duality, because there's the idea that you wish to experience your true infinite nature, which you know is available, and then there's the idea that there's something wrong with Robin, so we need to sort of push him into the background. But actually, that's part of the system which is trying to keep you in duality, because the truth is Robin is absolutely great as he is, and it isn't that you need to get rid of Robin. You just need to set Robin free, because everything about Robin is, absolutely perfect as it is. And so it's really a matter of integration rather than separation. And the way that happens is just, it's a bit like, when who your brother is, or your wife, or your mum, or your dad, or your best friend, or whoever, you don't need to keep it in mind, because you already know it, and because you already know your true nature, it isn't something you need to practice. You don't need to constantly remind yourself of that, because there's an integration that takes place where Robin, there's a huge amount of potential available to Robin, and actually that potential will be revealed fully when there's an integration and acceptance, because it's like Lester Levinson says, it's seeing the perfection where the seeming imperfection seems to be. So Robin is actually already perfect. There isn't anything, you don't need to be monitoring Robin, really. The more there's full acceptance, full appreciation of the character, then the more fluency there'll just be in everything that's going on. So you don't, the thing about effortlessness is you don't need to maintain a state, you don't need to get rid of Robin, you don't need to separate from Robin. It's just that there are, sometimes people refer to realization as 200% of life, because there's the knowing of one's true infinite nature, and then there's also the full-on experience in the human realm, and it's actually the contrast that is amazing. So it isn't necessary to try to get rid of either of them, and so the more ease and effortlessness, because that invitation into the idea that there needs to be more separation is that's actually keeping you in a loop where your energy is being compromised, because it's creating the feeling that there's a need to maintain some kind of state where it isn't actually necessary to do that, because the whole thing is effortless. effortless being is what you truly are. You're already resting as the infinite, impersonal, timeless, omnipotent being. You don't need to make an effort to do that. That's the only thing you can ever be. You also have the option, to have the human experience, and that is an experience of contrast, and it's one which is amazing. And there'll be, what will effortlessly emerge is an integration between your infinite nature and the true potential that there is for Robin. So lots of things that have happened already, it appears to have been in the personal domain of Robin, when actually you've been on a training course. It's like the infinite being has been training you up for what's to come. And there are lots of things in your situation which will enable you to share this knowledge with other people, because that's really what you've come here to do. Your mission is to be able to effortlessly impart this knowledge to people, just in a way. There are obviously lots of people who resonate with you already, as you're saying, from the 100,000 emails or messages, and so you're in a great position to be able to do that. And in some ways, it's the authenticity which people found appealing, because we've all been, Northern Europeans. It is about trying to maintain a kind of, it's a mental version of equanimity. It's the idea that we need to maintain emotional equanimity, but it's based on force. It isn't based on neutrality. And I think that's what people found refreshing, really, that you were just open. And so
yeah, they've never experienced me. I was doing television for 16, 17 years, and they never saw that side of me.
yes.
So that was a real glimpse behind the curtain. I will say that. And I know the producers very well, so they got me in there, and it was really also relieving, and it sent me back on my seeking journey. But that's, like you said, it was so relieving when you just talked and said there's nothing to do. The more you say effortless, that more it really gets in my body, and I have to keep that in my heart and in my real natural being, that integration will happen effortless, and really have to observe, just keep the mind observed, just be my real state, but don't believe the mind anymore. And I'm just realizing that, because I talked for years in my mind loudly when I was at home. I talked to if anyone had seen that, that's how the much identity I had with the voice in my head.
Yes.
So I really, that must be observed, but it goes effortlessly. Like you said, it's just being my true natural self, and being this impersonal terms. When I'm sad, sadness is arising.
Yes.
Sadness is here, or something like that, and just keep an eye on it. But
don't
it's
identify.
It's not the sad. That really helps a lot.
Yeah, great. Well, it's actually really simple, Robin, because once you've reached the point that you have, which is that you've recognized that your true nature is infinite, impersonal being, within which the whole universe and all dimensions are appearing, that's what you truly are, then the ability to actually be aware of any invitations coming in is really simple, because you are in this moment. All you can ever be is the infinite, impersonal, effortless, timeless being. There is no time, really. There is just this moment. So everything that needs to be processed can be processed in this moment. So, and it's just a really simple choice. Either we can just remain as the effortless, infinite, timeless being, or we can accept an invitation into some kind of limitation. And that could be either a mental, a conceptual limitation, or it could be an emotional or a physical limitation. but they're optional because you're the infinite being, you're the sovereign being. Everything in this world has tried to persuade us that we're subject to all of these conditions, but actually you're the infinite sovereign being. Once you accept that, you realize you're the one who says what goes. You decide whether or not you accept the invitation. If there's some, sometimes, some forms of limitation are really, really nice, like with, with your partner or with, close friends. Duality in that sense is amazing, really, because you can only have that kind of experience of love in the dualistic realm in that way. But it's just seeing that everything is optional and everything is available in this moment. So what you're resting as naturally is you're resting as the infinite, timeless, effortless being. Everything you need will come to you effortlessly because infinite intelligence will bring things to you intuitively, so you'll know the direction to go. And that's something that will just happen. It's totally different to the way we've been conditioned, because all our conditioning is based on the idea that we need to compete with people, we need to make an effort, we need to plan things, and all of those concepts. But the truth is, the greatest resource we have is that it isn't that we have a connection with the infinite being, we are the infinite being, but the intelligence which is available will actually structure things and guide us in terms of the human experience. And once we effortlessly align with that, then it becomes the most magical experience.
Of course, yeah, and when you get the bliss, when you're I'm mostly in the bliss since last Saturday, and it's really great. So I really experience it, and even if it gets lost, I can do the process, like you said, with the hearing and engaging the mind and effortless, and just 30 seconds later, I can't. It's there again. You're back in that state, and that's really relieving also. And what also helped me, what I wanted to ask you about, is that the thoughts aren't our thoughts. It's also personal. That really helped. I just discovered this sentence from you 3 days ago or so, and again it clicked. It's really, and my whole body was, it isn't my thoughts. It's not my thought. I can just let it flow through my whole body.
Yes, fantastic. Yeah.
So that's all. But the thought, is it from the consciousness awareness field around us? Because everything is one, or when it doesn't arise in me, it has to come from out of.
Yeah, well, there are two sources, really. There's either the source which is coming from the infinite being, which is, you could say that's an intuitive process, and it's based on things like intuition or inspiration, telepathy, synchronicity. You notice those things, all the things which are supportive of effortless functioning. And then there are the invitations, which is a dualistic form of consciousness, and everything that comes from there is inviting us into an energetic compromise of one sort or another. It's the pain body, as Eckhart Tolle describes it, and it's the thing which is inviting us into various forms of emotional disturbance or mental concepts of limitation. But when they're invitations and you're the sovereign being, it becomes really easy to decline them, because we've been conditioned to believe that they're compulsory, because most people believe that things like grief or anger or fear or depression or jealousy, those sort of things, are part of the human condition, and they're sort of compulsory, that we can't escape them. But actually they're optional. We can express them sometimes. Sometimes you'll be with somebody and they need a bit of consolation or something, but generally, you can just stay clear of it.
If you say so. No, but I know what you mean. You can catch it.
Yes.
You can really see it. It's not a holding back. It's just not following the invitation.
Yeah.
It's really this decision moment in myself. I can
Yes.
make the decision to live that out, the whole,
Yes.
or I can say no, it's not, that's not my anger now. And if
Yes.
I'm angry at someone else, it's mostly because I'm angry at me. Yeah, it's not someone else is like he is, you know, when
Yeah.
why can't I can't be angry, and when I'm angry at someone else, I actually am angry at myself. So
Yes.
it's
Yes. There you.
yeah, it's the same. It's the that's if I'm jealous of someone else, I'm jealous of of someone else. I'm jealous of myself. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And something
So
that's quite useful, Robin, is to look at the invitations. If you, because there's been self-realization, it's actually been there for a long time, but it seems to have just clicked in really clearly recently. And so you get corresponding invitation. The dualistic form of intelligence is saying, hang on a minute, Robin's free of our system now. He's not going to be taking the bait anymore. What can we do to invite him back? So it looks through your files and it tries to find things like with you, because spirituality is really important. It said, well, the best thing we can do is put him in fear of the idea of losing it. So that's probably the biggest one it can come up with. But it's
yeah,
good to look at the invitations and look at look at what they're actually trying to get you to believe, because the content of the invitation is usually the opposite of what is true. So if you take that example, because the dualistic form of intelligence knows you're free, and once you've seen it, you can't ever go back. It says, well, what we'll do is we'll put a thought in his mind to make it seem as though he can lose it, because that's the biggest invitation into fear and disturbance. But once you know the way the system works, you can smile at it really, because you can see what it's trying to do. But just, just be alert to those, any invitations, because you quite often get a slight amendment. You could have that one, and then there could be some other slight amendment, trying to invite you into limitation in some way. But just look at them and consider what the opposite is, because usually the invitation is the opposite of what is true, or what the potential is, is becoming available to you. And then it becomes quite an easy game then, because it's so predictable what's going on.
very powerful. Thank you for that. That's really powerful. Yeah, because you probably you notice the fear is talking out of me the whole time. Oh, I don't want to lose it, David. Tell me what to do. It's I'm recognizing it myself. I'm so glad and I'm so grateful actually to talk to you. And all I do is talk about sadness and talk about fear and talk about this and the other. And I was so energetic before this video call, and it
Yeah.
turned in my mind. I made a mind movie how it could be, and I caught myself doing that mind movie, and it went a whole other way. But I'm really grateful that we're talking about those actually from not difficult. It's about these terms,
Yeah.
because they are not difficult terms for me, but I now realize that they are terms I have to be aware of,
Yes.
how how my natural being is handling that, because
Yes.
that are like fear or sadness or something, that something like that doesn't get me off track.
Yes.
That's, but it
Exactly.
won't. It won't. It won't.
No.
So no, because
Well, if you take those two examples, the opposite is true. So the invitations into sadness are because the dualistic form of intelligence has realized that the freedom that has come to you is giving you the opportunity for the greatest form of infinite happiness that's available. But so what it's doing is it's saying, let's try to get him into sadness. And the same with fear, because you've actually stepped into your sovereign nature. And the thing with realizing that you're the infinite awareness within which all forms appear, then there can be no fear, because fear is always in the realm of duality. And once you've realized that you're the infinite unified consciousness, and so the dualistic intelligence, it looks through the files and it says, well, what shall we do? Let's deliver the idea of fear and loss here. But it's actually the opposite that's true. It's fearlessness, total stability.
Yes, yes, I can see it now clearly, like you mentioned, and I can let it just go through me. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to believe in emotion. I don't have to believe like my thought or so. But
Yes.
with emotions, it's yet a different thing for me at the moment. But I just
Yeah.
just realized that just like you were talking to me, I realized that the same thing that counts for thoughts, it's also for emotions.
Yes, exactly. Because it's just that they're emotional invitations instead.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh my God, that's brilliant. You just rocked my world again. You just opened another booms. So that's great. That's really relieving as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's so great, David. That's really so great. And that's so great that I can speak to you about that, because all those other concepts, and that's what's so annoying for me was, you have to do this to become this. You have to, and always these, am I aware?
Yes.
Am I aware? Is this now aware? I was like this. I find the chapter about the mind really interesting. I
Yeah.
have the audiobook in German, English, and I have the reading versions as well.
Yes.
And about the mind, it really helped me
Yes.
to understand that. But all those welcoming, but that's only my opinion. For someone else, it's I don't want to offend you, or anyone of no. But for me, I thought my real me, and there is a self-realization. I can also now see it myself.
Yes.
um, why does my real me, who is, or which is what is already is, has to meditate for 3 hours a day to become
The real self.
that's yeah that's and that didn't that wasn't for me. That was something like that. But
Well, it's great that you have that clarity, because some people stumble on that, because the idea of processing things through, welcoming or releasing and that kind of thing, that's that's all part of the game of identification with individuality, because it's saying that all of that content is yours and you need to process it. But your intuition is really powerful, so you saw through that. And your intuition is really finely tuned, and it's the thing to go by, because you're the sovereign being, and your intuition will reveal to you exactly what your true purpose and destiny is, and it'll reveal it effortlessly, and it's already fully functioning. And it's why you can make the distinction between effort and effortlessness so clearly, and understanding that those ideas, because it's so boring anyway, isn't it? Who wants to sit down? I mean, the thing is, when you're infinite awareness, the idea that you've got to be sitting around all day asking if you're aware.
it's just it's ludicrous actually. And I really became annoyed. It brought me further
Yeah.
away from my
Yes.
real being, and
Yeah.
I could sense that.
Yes.
And I really got frustrated and overwhelmed actually, because all of those concepts, I call
Yes.
it concepts, which are in there, so many chapters and more
Yeah.
concept. And I thought, okay, that's and then the seeking starts again.
Yes.
Then, oh, I am not, I'm not it. I have to do this to become it.
Yeah.
And now you ended my seeking forever now, because
Fantastic.
that's just being effortless and let it happen effortless. Is
Yeah.
there, when I may ask, is there, how are you living constantly in this state of mind, or are there situations in your life? I know it's a very personal question, you don't have to answer it,
No,
but
I
is it
certainly
now
will.
after all these years of self-realization, and that really interests me a lot, are there situations where you go back in dualistic mode and after 3 minutes you go back to the other state, or are you solid like a rock?
It's pretty well solid. You know, there are challenges which still come up in the human realm, you know, obviously, you know, with, you know, family members and different things. My mum's 91, for instance, you know, and so
Great.
you know, there are different, but the thing is that there's a kind of realism, because I think in the human realm, lots of people, they're sort of creating the illusion of certain things. And also I did a conversation with a lady called Nina recently, and her dad and her partner's dad died within a week, and that's only like 2 weeks ago. But there's a realism which is, firstly, that the sort of foundation of all experience is to know that you are the infinite being. You've only ever been the infinite timeless being. So anything that is to do with limitation or disturbance in the human realm is optional, because you can decide how you're going to process it. So for instance, if there's bereavement, or if there's illness, or if there's whatever the invitation is, you can process it in whichever way you wish to. So you can, you know, you can maintain stability, you can maintain peace, and you can process it from there. You'll find it just becomes easier and easier to do that, because you've established your sovereignty. It's like discovering that you were the king instead of, you know, one of the king's subjects. And you're just at the point of beginning to exercise your power now, really.
It was always there, actually, you know.
Yeah, you're always the king. It's just that
we don't know it. Yeah, you don't know it. And are there some when you I wrote to you your morning routine, or so, since 7 days now, when I wake up, I'm doing this routine like you also did with me, with the hearing effortlessness,
yes.
checking the body, something like that.
Yes.
Are you doing something like that also in the morning, or just stand up and go on with the day?
The option to actually function consciously through each of the koshas becomes increasingly available. So what I'd like to do just for a moment, Robin, could you just close the eyes for a moment? Okay. And just focus on the back of the eyelids. And when we do that, it tends to disconnect the thought stream and the emotional stream. So there's just a sense of aliveness, a sense of beingness. And it's totally familiar. It's exactly the same in this moment as it was when Robin was 6 months old, or a year old, or 5 years old. And it's never changed. And this simple, effortless awareness is what you've always remained as. It's just that the world's tried to tell you that this awareness belongs to Robin, where actually it's the awareness of the infinite being, and it's the only thing you can ever be. And once you know that, then there's never the case of mistaken identity again, because you can't ever go back to thinking that that's Robin's awareness.
That's powerful. Thank you. Also, a fear question, one fear question after another. You're recognizing that. That's so nice of you, David. Thank you. Just okay. No, that's good. That's really, oh my God, that's such a gift. I have to tell you, you're giving people such a gift, and I'm so grateful for that. You have awoken me, if you can call it awakening, because with all my energize exercises or so, I've never been that clear. So I can, this morning, for example, I could take a cold shower. I've never showered cold. I'm sensitive to cold. I didn't care at all. I just was myself, you know, and felt really good. And it clicked in this moment. what David's doing is such a gift. For me, it's, you should write a book with the greatest gift. Really, this is the greatest gift you could give to anyone. So thank you so much, David, for your work and for everything you've did for me. Now you changed completely my life around.
Fantastic, fantastic. Except it isn't David who's doing it, it's the infinite.
No, you, of course. Yeah, I'm referring to you as David, but you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, and it's all one. But it's so difficult when I talk to my wife, and she realizes we're for 20 years we're now together, my
Yeah.
wife and I, and she realized there's something going on with him, and it's such a positive shift. And when I talk to her, she doesn't get it, and it's okay for me. It's no problem for me.
Yes.
Just because I had self-realization, she doesn't have to have it. It's the point. Someone is, it's coming from the inside. It has to come
Yes.
from the inside.
Well, it's handing
So
over responsibility for that to one's infinite nature, and it tends to happen like that. I'm not in a relationship at the moment. My previous girlfriend, in about 2008, a few friends came around and we were talking about realization, and she was just in the kitchen making some food, and she was just kind of overhearing, because in some way there was some resistance. Sometimes you find if you're in a really close relationship with someone, put thoughts into your partner's mind where there's a resistance to realization, but it usually happens in a really effortless way. And that's how it happened with my former partner, that she was kind of overhearing it, but because it wasn't directly coming from me, I was speaking to these other people, she was just doing the cooking, and it just clicked with her and she suddenly saw it. So that's really how it can happen.
Interesting, really interesting here. I really have also the sense that something's holding her back, because I talked about you and she knows you as well, and every time I talk, after 5 seconds she changes the subject. And I noticed that, and then after 10 minutes I change the subject, and after 5 seconds she goes back in the other, and okay, just leave it there like it is. That's no problem. But that's interesting that you say that, because that's also the kind of sense I got.
Yes. Well, there's a telepathic communication going on also, Robin. So energetically she'll be there'll be alignment with her true nature. It's just that the clarity probably hasn't arisen yet in terms of realizing that the thoughts that are being beamed into her mind aren't her own. She's still adopting them as though they're her own, and that's how it happens. So the physical body mind is an extension of the dualistic creation. So everything about it is coming from that source in one way. It's just that because you're the infinite being, then there's an understanding of what those structures are and how those invitations work. But it's the simplest thing, which you could talk about to your wife possibly, is the whole thing of adoption, and explaining the way there are certain invitations coming in, and because you have the clarity, you'll begin to see the way certain invitations are being delivered to your wife, and you'll be able to kind of explain how they can be dismantled and how the energy supply can be disconnected from there. So it's a sort of practical approach probably with your wife, but it's being really easy about it. That's the thing. It's just effortless. There may be an opportunity that arises for you to have a conversation, and you'll know exactly when that is. Your intuition will show you. And even what I liked is that when you were saying about reading Rhonda's book and the way it was giving rise to frustration and even a bit of anger, that also was your intuitive guidance. And so that was telling you that there was something slightly out of alignment, and it was the way you trusted that, and you sort of went beyond that, and your intuition led you to the clarity, because it's always only the infinite being revealing itself to itself. And so the more you see that happening effortlessly, then the more you just sort of relax into it, and it just becomes more and more available.
That I do. I will really relax into it, and effortless, effortless, effortless. That's the name of the game.
Yes, it is.
So great, David. It was unbelievable talking to you. I've never. It was my biggest wish to talk to you, and my biggest wish came true. No one can give me anything to Christmas because you gave me the biggest Christmas gift. It was really just so great